So obviously there were problems with that, and problems that I think today, there, certainly the political climate is a little bit different, where I don't think that it would be a tough argument to, say that it's not fair to define a sort of a religious, um, transnational nation or people as, as having to represent their demographic numbers. Because it goes both ways. You could say it about Muslim doctors. So Muslim doctors, you got to stick to whatever 2-3%. In the United States, you can't have more. Same, Indian doctors. So it's obviously not the design of, or medical school or law school. That wasn't the point of affirmative action. That wasn't the point of instituting quotas. So does that point out? Does that highlight one of the flaws in drafting certain affirmative action legislation? Sure, but since I don't think there would be any opposition on the affirmative action side, and again, as I say, I'm generally pro-affirmative action, I think this is just really an issue of semantics that could be ironed out. But that also represented a transition point. You have different movements, some of the most vocal movements at the time, saying, "Look, we don't want your help," which I guess that's understandable. Everybody wants to feel like, "Look, I can do this for myself." But could you imagine if any oppressed segment of society, if Jews in Europe were like, "Look, Schindler, we don't need your help. We can do this ourselves." This wouldn't occur. What if Palestinians were like, "Look, all you other Arabs, people abroad wanting to support us, just shut up because we're going to do this ourselves." It wouldn't happen. You could go through the list of examples, but this isn't the best approach to empowering any people. If people want to fight for your rights, then you should be open to that, not necessarily stupid and trusting anybody who comes along, but be open to it. I'll part with mentioning this book, Strangers and Neighbors, Relations Between Blacks and Jews in the United States. A problematic title indeed, but I don't want to leave it on this note of these were sort of black failures in America, because that's not, it's not that simple. The roots go far deeper than that, and really, excuse me, really you have a legacy of different pockets of Jewry in America that had not been the most favorable towards Africans in America. Certainly, you can't say that in any sort of sweeping sense, but there were congregations where certainly black people had no place, and I mean that simply in the sense that they were given no place. There was no place made for them. There were actual congregation, charters and laws written against allowing, black conversions, which is really a problematic term, but black naturalizations into the world family of Judaism and Jewry, and a failure to recognize, black folks who did identify with Judaism, who in some cases may have been Jewish, may have been naturalized, may have been ancestrally identified. Some African folks had, strong traditional connections that when they saw Judaism in practice in the United States, they said, these are our customs. So whatever one's take on that is, whether it involves lost tribes of the children of Joseph, or whether it involves simply eligibility for Garut. Blacks in America were turned away more often than not for a long time, particularly in the 19th century. So even though there were, considerable number of liberal Jews who were fighting, in the vanguard of civil rights and pre-civil rights era, certainly, there was still bound to be some distrust. Now, this isn't obviously a detailed sociological study. This is just me first thing in the morning recording some thoughts, and I'd appreciate to hear your input on it, because I don't pretend to have it all figured out. Assalamu alaikum, shalom aleichem to everybody listening. Peace be upon you if you are peaceful.